without further ado, I'm going to bring on my special guest to give us an eyewitness report of what happened at Gig Harbor, Washington last night. This is Mikhail Thalen. Once again, he's a local liberty activist around the Seattle area. He's a researcher and a constitutional enthusiast. Mikhail, you are live on the Sound of Freedom. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Loving the show. It's good stuff.
Well, hey, thank you so much for calling in. Why don't you go ahead and just basically just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you feel about the military, and then we'll get into talking about what happened last night.
Yeah, no problem. I love my country. I love the Constitution. I love everything that's good. So, me and a couple of friends out of Seattle, we have a group called Seattle Activist Report. We just cover local news, from the elections that are going on now, just anything political in the area. So we're always out there, looking for a good story. I also write for the Examiner part-time on, similar issues. So, basically, I have nothing against the troops. I have nothing, just complete respect for people who sign up for the military, and in their heart they want to do good and they want to protect this country. And, every time I see someone in uniform, I definitely let them know that I appreciate everything they do. Anyone who takes an oath to the Constitution is good in my book. But, so I was just at the grocery store and I saw a poster and it said National Night Out. It was a thing for the local police and the community to get together, and I think that's one of the biggest problems in this country. We're losing our sense of community. Everyone's with the TVs, the phones, the computers, and, I'm just as guilty as anyone. So I was like, it's a good opportunity to go out and meet, my local police, maybe ask them some questions. So I show up, and I was incredibly surprised because they didn't say anything about military on the flyer, and I've also been going through today looking at all the news stories, local newspapers covering it, and they didn't mention military either, but first thing I see when I get there is 2 Humvees, 10 guys, military. We have Marines, we have Army, and then we had Navy, we had the Reserves, we had just about Air Force, everyone. So I was a little taken back at that because there was more military there than there was police.
Right.
So,
just to be clear, that flyer that you read, what did it mention about the military being there?
No, there was no mention of military. It just said come out, hang out with the police officers from your local community. So.
And the police ended up being there, huh?
Yeah, there was local police there. They had a little chopper on display and stuff. But yeah, I was just really surprised, and I was trying to gauge, because they had booths set up. They had a little booth for preparedness with some nice FEMA propaganda on the table.
Good stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah. But, so I kind of went up to one of the guys, and I was like, hey, so are you, because one of the guys, he was in blue camo. He looked to be, I guess that would be Navy, correct?
I believe so, yes. They have a new fancy pants, digital camouflage that's blue, and yes, as far as I know, that's the Navy still. Yes,
it was quite fancy. And he had a sidearm on him, and I noticed not many of the other guys did. So I just kind of came up to him and was like, hey, so are you here, for recruitment, or are you here, are you doing security work, or what? And he just said, I was just asked to come here. That's all he said. And there was also attack dogs there, but they kind of were doing everything oh, look at these attack dogs, well, come meet them. So it was hard to distinguish if, are these guys here for security or are they here to do recruitment? It was really all kind of thinly veiled, All
right. Hey, you're still on the line with me, Mikhail, but I had to mute you real quick just because of our internet connection right now. If I try to talk when you try to talk, it blurs me out. So you're still with me, and I'm definitely going to bring you back on, but it's a shock. I mean, I research every day. I'm putting my head into the news, trying to figure out what's going on to the best of my ability, and I still just can't get over how blatant this is. Everybody, I just want to put this out there right now. 646-716-7667. If you want to say something about it, this police state that's coming, this rollout of military everywhere. They're doing training in St. Louis. They have a Meet the Police Day in Gig Harbor, Washington, and Mikhail shows up there, and there's nothing but military of all different types. And I just want to say real quick before I bring Mikhail back on, from my own experience, before I got out, I was asking troops, soldiers, hey, what's the First Amendment? Ladies and gentlemen, it's absolutely horrendous. Like Mikhail said, almost everybody that's joining the military is doing it for a good reason in their head. Everything around us is telling them, be a man, join the military, fight for your country, fight the terrorists, defend freedom, yada, yada, yada. But there's 18-year-old kids in the military right now, folks, who are in Afghanistan, who are putting their lives on the line for who knows what. They don't know why we invaded Iraq, what the official story was, or even any story. They don't even know that. They don't know the official story about 9/11, how many buildings fell, how many planes fell, not even the official story, let alone the real story. They don't even know the real name of the president. They don't, I mean, and I'm not talking crazy stuff. I'm just saying Barack Hussein Obama, the name that he's giving us right now. They don't even know his middle name is Hussein. And these are young men who have signed an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. They don't know what it is at all. And they don't even have any idea of what's going on in this country, and it just breaks my heart that they're being fooled so badly. So with Mikhail here, I mean, I side with him. You know, I definitely have love for the troops, but the big thing that gets me going is that they're being fooled, and that really upsets me. The fact that Leon Panetta has the fortitude to go in front of the Congress and tell them that they fall under the United Nations. Pentagon listens to United Nations before they listen to Congress, which once again is a blatant violation of the Constitution in its most basic sense. The fact that I have soldiers who tell me they don't care who is over the Army as long as they get their paycheck. The fact that I have soldiers tell me that they don't care how many kids get killed in Pakistan because they're good at war, and that's how it is. I mean, folks, that is the propaganda that's being put out by the enemy, and my own, brothers in arms are just recycling it right back to me. I'm sorry, Mikhail, I'm just rambling here. I'm going to bring it back on the line. Where you left off with the attack dogs that were there, and everyone can come meet them. Go ahead and continue with your story. This is incredible information.
Yeah, no, so, I was just kind of, I knew some people there, so I was talking to some people. I originally wanted to go because I assumed there would be some politicians there that I could talk to about the elections that are going on right now. But I eventually walked over to which appeared to be an Army guy. He was over there. They had a little display where you could hold one of the guns with the grenade launcher, obviously defective, showing off all the goods. So I just went up to him and I was like, yeah, so, what are you doing out here? Have you ever been out here before? And apparently Gig Harbor hadn't done this for a couple of years. So I doubt there was that heavy of a military presence when they did it 7 years ago, if any. So I just asked him, I was just straight up with him. I was like, so,
order to disarm American citizens, would you? Or you're not allowed to answer that either?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done talking.
Is that such a crazy question? I mean, should I not be able to have that kind of dialogue with, someone who's defending my country for me? And I can understand, when you're in uniform, you're not allowed to talk political things, even though I don't even really think that's political. That's a pretty basic question. And he just kind of turned his back to me. He's like, I'm not having this conversation. So I was like, all right. So I walked away, but it was just, again, it was nice, all the militaries there playing with the kids, and they have a little bounce house. But again, it's their conditioning. They're conditioning to see that. And the military guys, they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they are even, but posse comitatus. If you ask the average soldier what that is as well, they're not going to know probably.
Definitely, and that's just more great points. And ladies and gentlemen, Mikhail has never even been in the military, so the fact that he sees this so blatantly clear. I mean, just he sees it, and he hasn't even served in the military. It's not that hard to see this picture here. Once again, if you want to get involved with this talk, I do have him on the line for the next few minutes, 646-716-7667. And also keep in mind, we're going to bring in Les Jackson with more great talk about zombies and International Love Day. Just, man, Mikhail, this is just incredible information. And, touching on what you said, I talked to soldiers before I got out, and I said, hey, if you were ordered to, take people's guns, or if you were ordered to do what we do in Afghanistan, set up a flash traffic checkpoint on order. Hey, stop right now, start scanning every car on the freeway with the biometric systems, get their iris scans, get their fingerprint scans, the exact same thing we do in Afghanistan. They're now using that system. It's called HIDE, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it's HIII. I believe, something along those lines, but that's the biometric system we use on terrorists downrange, and we now use it on Occupy Wall Street, New York City. Once again, I would encourage you to look that up. If you don't believe me, just Google it. I'm sure you can find it. But moving on, back to what I was trying to say, I had soldiers who said, hey, yeah, I would confiscate people's guns. I'm just following orders. And at the same time, I don't even know what the First Amendment is. So, Mikhail, you're making a great point there, and as someone who served in the military, I can definitely back up what you're saying. Also, I just can't help but add, the chat room is just totally out of control tonight. This is just incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got about 12 people in the chat room. We've got Anarcho Gentleman, I don't know. We've got Beta in there. We've got Braden Wilkerson. We've got my man Matthew Hayward. My is in there telling war stories. Carolyn and the Royal Listener and all kinds of guests. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This is your show. Without further ado, Kyle, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, man. Go ahead and keep letting us know exactly what happened. Tell us about some of the other people that you asked questions to.
Yeah, you know, I saw also in Gig Harbor they're building a 9/11 memorial also. So I saw a group there, you know, they were talking about the 9/11 memorial. So I went up, you know, checked it out, and they were showing me they got steel from the World Trade Center, one of the buildings there. Right. You know, and you know that's a touchy subject for a lot of people. You know, it was a horrible tragedy. So you know, I just he was showing me how they were modeling the memorial in Gig Harbor off of the one in New York. So he was showing me, you know, here's where the two buildings fell, and we're having two memorials like they are having those two memorials. So I just asked him, I was like, well, is there a memorial for the third building? And he's like, well, what building? And I was like, oh, you know, World Trade Center 7. And he's like, oh, I don't really know. And he didn't, I mean, he said he had visited New York, so he seemed to know about it, but not really. And it's another strange thing that a lot of people don't know, that 3 buildings went down that day. So that was another interesting thing. So there's a lot of interesting people to talk to there, that's for sure.
Definitely, and I thank you so much for going out there, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is Mikhail Thalen on the phone. He is a liberty activist. He's a constitutional enthusiast, an incredible researcher. He's given us the live scoop. He was there in person in Gig Harbor, Washington, to go meet his local police and officials. He goes there. None of them are there, maybe a little contingent of police, but basically a bunch of military. When you're going through the TSA and they're groping you and doing all these horrible things, making you stand in the slave position for 7 minutes and radiating you with body scanners and all these other things, that's what's called slave training. And like I like to tell you guys, you know, and you guys know this just as well, they can't just flip the switch and turn the tyranny on because America would wake up, and they know it. It's the frog in the boiling pot of water analogy. Mikhail, thank you so much for coming on and breaking that down. Is there any...
No problem.
Oh, we have a question in the chat room. Jordan just told me, and I'm having a hard time keeping up. We have so many people in there tonight. This is just so encouraging, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your show. But the question was, Mikhail, where exactly in Gig Harbor was this?
It was actually right. Where the police station is. It's right next to the Gig Harbor Skate Park. And there's a little plot of grass that they have that's just right outside of there. It's basically City Hall, Police Department, and the skate park are all right in the same area there. So. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for throwing that out there. Everybody, once again, this is Mikhail Thalen, a liberty activist, researcher, constitutional enthusiast. Check him out at Seattle Activist Report. You better believe it that we here at the Sound of Freedom are going to be teaming up with the Seattle Activist Report. The Sound of Freedom, it's going to be heard from coast to coast. It's broadcasting live around the world right now, and we are going to be teaming up with the Seattle Activist Report. We are stronger together than we are separate. Mikhail, hey, thank you so much for calling. Is there anything else you want to say before we keep it moving here?
No, man, thanks for having me. The show's great. I'll definitely be listening to it more and more and telling people about it, man. So, you know, let freedom ring.
Definitely. Well, hey, my friend, thank you so much. There he goes, everybody. Mikhail Thalen. We'll put a link to his Facebook page here after the show once we get our act together here. It's a two-man band, ladies and gentlemen. You guys make the show.